Maya made $72,000 last year. She saved exactly zero. Not because she was irresponsible, not because she was reckless, because she looked at the math and decided saving was pointless. A starter home in her city costs $450,000. Her savings potential after rent, groceries, and student loans? Maybe $200 a month. She did the math. At that rate, she'd need 187 years to buy that house. So she stopped trying. 14 months later, she ran a different calculation, and the number she found changed everything. Here's the thing Maya got right. The frustration is real. Housing costs jumped 28% since 2020. Wages grew about 22%. That 6-point gap isn't a feeling, it's a fact. And if you're sitting there right now thinking, finally someone gets it, yeah, I get it. Before I break down how this trap actually works, there's a number I need to show you about what's happening underneath the nihilism. And it contradicts almost everything you've heard. So Maya did what 46% of people under 35 have done. She gave up on the big goal. Then she gave up on the small ones too. That's the part nobody talks about. The big goal dies and it takes every small goal with it. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how much financial nihilism costs the average person every year, and the 5-question scorecard that tells you where you actually stand. Quick note, I'm not a financial advisor. This isn't personalized advice. It's what the data shows and what the math says. Always do your own homework before making money moves. Here's what nobody tells you about financial nihilism. The belief that saving is pointless, it's the most expensive belief you can hold. And I've got 6 traps and a 5-question scorecard to prove it. Here's your first proof. About 70% of tax filers get a refund every year. The average in 2026 is $3,397, mostly W-2 workers earning under $100,000. If you earn more or have side income, you might owe instead. But most Gen Z workers fall right in that refund range. They get the check. And 62% of them say they'll blow through every dollar of it. Impulse purchases to cope with how expensive everything feels. If you invested that refund instead, every year at 7% for 10 years, that's nearly $47,000. Not $3,000, $47,000. From money you were getting anyway. Maya's housing math wasn't wrong. $450,000 divided by 200 a month really does equal 187 years. But here's the problem. That's the wrong equation. She compared her monthly leftovers to the full price of a house. That's like measuring the ocean with a coffee cup and concluding water doesn't exist. Nobody saves the full price of a home in cash. That's not how home buying works. A 3.5% FHA down payment on that same house is $15,750. At $200 a month, that's about 6.5 years, not 187. Look, 6 years is still a long time. I'm not pretending it's easy. But 187 years and 6 years live in completely different emotional universes. One makes you give up, the other makes you plan. The affordability lie doesn't say homeownership is easy. It says homeownership is impossible. And impossible shuts down action. That's what makes it a trap, not the math, the conclusion. 42% of Americans now believe they'll never afford a home they love. Among Gen Z, it's 46%. Every person in that group stopped doing the math that actually matters. They did the math that feels dramatic instead. That's just the first trap. The second one is quieter, and it hits your bank account every single week. Here's how the doom spending loop works. You feel anxious about money, so you scroll. The algorithm feeds you content confirming the world is falling apart. You feel worse, so you buy something. A meal out, new headphones, a spontaneous weekend trip. For about 45 minutes, you feel better. Then the guilt hits, and the cycle starts again. 37% of Gen Z and 39% of millennials admit to doom spending. That's not a character flaw, it's a stress response, and it's an expensive one. There's a number I'll show you in a few minutes that completely flips this narrative, and it has nothing to do with real estate. Let's be conservative. Say doom spending adds $450 a month to what you'd normally spend. That's dining you wouldn't normally do, delivery fees you don't need, impulse purchases within 30 minutes of scrolling. Over a year, that's $5,400. Over 5 years, $27,000. That's not coffee money. That's a down payment. The exact thing Maya told herself was impossible. And here's what's cruel about it. The companies selling you comfort, buy now, pay later apps, subscription boxes, fast fashion, they profit directly from your hopelessness. 49% of Gen Z plan to use buy now, pay later for large purchases this year. These companies aren't your friend, they're your trap. They're designed to make spending feel painless, right up until the balance comes due. 27% of Gen Z carry more debt than savings right now. That's not a generation of irresponsible spenders. That's a generation caught in a loop that was engineered to keep them spending. $94,101. That's the average personal debt for a Gen Z adult. More than millennials, more than Gen X, the highest of any generation. And a chunk of that is doom spending catching up. You open your phone, someone your age just bought a house. Someone else is traveling Europe for 3 months. A third person shows their brokerage account hitting 6 figures. And you think, what am I doing wrong? Probably nothing. You're comparing your behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel. I know that sounds like a poster in a guidance counselor's office, but it's still wrecking people's financial behavior in measurable ways. The comparison scroll doesn't just make you feel bad, it makes you spend more. When you feel behind, you try to close the gap the fast way. New clothes you don't need, better restaurants you can't afford, a nicer apartment that eats your savings potential. 80% of Gen Z agree with financial nihilism mindsets. That's 4 out of 5, and social media is the accelerant. The algorithm doesn't show you the 27-year-old quietly putting $200 a month into an index fund. That's boring content. It shows you the 27-year-old who just bought a Porsche, because outrage and envy get clicks. The loud ones get the views, the quiet ones get the compound interest. And that difference matters more than you think. The group that supposedly gave up on money, they actually did something nobody expected last year. I'll show you that number in a minute. But first, the trap that costs more than all the others combined. $200 a month won't change my life. That's what Maya told herself. On the surface, it feels true. $200 a month is $2,400 a year. Against a $450,000 house, it feels like nothing, like throwing pennies at the moon. But here's what $200 a month at 7% average returns actually becomes. After 5 years, $14,000. After 10 years, $34,000. After 20 years, $104,000. After 30 years, $244,000. $200 a month, the amount Maya dismissed as pointless. It becomes $250,000. Not because the monthly number is big, because the time is long. Compounding doesn't care about your feelings. It only cares about consistency and decades. Your brain evaluates $200 against today's problems. Compounding evaluates it across decades. Your brain loses that fight every single time. Financial nihilism lives in the blind spot between those two perspectives. It only survives if you never run the long math. But here's where I have to be honest with you, because everything I've shown you so far tells one side of the story. I've been showing you all the ways this generation is struggling. The doom spending, the debt, the nihilism, all of it is real. But here's the number nobody's talking about. Last year, Gen Z grew their retirement savings by 14%. More than millennials, more than Gen X, more than boomers. The generation everyone says gave up? On average, they saved more aggressively than any other generation. And their net worth grew 3%, the highest rate of any age group, while 80% said they agreed with financial nihilism. Let that contradiction settle for a second. The ones who gave up are the loudest on social media, but the quiet ones are building wealth in the background. And the gap between the loud and the quiet? That's where all the money goes. So which group are you in? That's exactly what the scorecard is for. But first, 2 more traps. This one's subtle, and it might be the most dangerous of all 6. At some point, financial nihilism stops being a reaction to the economy. It becomes a personality. I'm the broke friend. I'm bad with money. I don't do savings. Sound familiar? When being broke becomes your identity, saving money feels like betraying yourself. That sounds extreme, but that's exactly how identity works. You protect your self-image even when it's actively hurting you, especially when it's hurting you. I built a 5-question scorecard for this. Your score tells you exactly which traps have you and which ones you've already beaten. We're almost there. But here's what this trap looked like for Maya. She stopped talking about money with the one friend who was actually saving. She unfollowed the finance accounts that made her feel guilty. She replaced them with memes about being broke. She built a bubble where nihilism was the default, where everyone agreed saving was pointless. And the bubble felt comfortable, safe even. That's why it's a trap. Traps are supposed to feel comfortable. That's the whole design. Everything I've described, the affordability lie, the doom loop, the comparison scroll, the small number blind spot, the identity lock, they all share one thing. They feel rational. Every single one of them feels like the smart, realistic position. And that's what makes the last trap the most important. The system is broken. I'm not going to argue with that. Housing costs did outpace wages. Student loan debt is crushing. The wealth gap is widening. The average first-time home buyer is now 40 years old. None of those are opinions. They're data points. All of that is true, and none of it means saving is pointless. The action step that costs $0 is the one worth the most. That's the last thing I'll show you before the scorecard. The system blame shield takes a valid observation. This is harder than it should be and turns it into a total shutdown. So why bother trying at all? And that shutdown is where the real cost hides. Both things can be true at the same time. The system can be unfair and you can still build within it. Those aren't contradictions. They're the whole picture. Holding both thoughts at once is hard, but it's the only honest position. The personal savings rate in America right now is 4.5%. The historical average is 8.4%. That gap isn't entirely explained by systemic problems. Part of it is behavioral, and behavior is the one thing you actually control. $200 a month, starting at 25, at 7% average returns. By 65, that's $525,000. That number doesn't care about housing prices. It doesn't care about student loans. It doesn't care about the system. It just grows. So the question isn't whether the math works. It does. The question is whether you're going to use it. I built the Financial Reality Scorecard as a 5-question self-assessment. Score yourself honestly. No judgment, just clarity. Question 1. Do you believe saving any amount of money is pointless unless it's a large amount? Yes is 0 points. No is 2 points. Question 2. In the last 30 days, did you spend money specifically to cope with stress or anxiety? More than 3 times is 0 points. 1 to 3 times is 1 point. Never is 2 points. Question 3. Do you regularly compare your financial position to people on social media? Yes, and it affects my spending is 0 points. Sometimes is 1 point. Rarely or never is 2 points. Do you have any automated savings? Even $5 a week? No is 0 points. Yes is 2 points. Question 5. In the last 90 days, has your net worth gone up, stayed the same, or gone down? Down is 0, same is 1, up is 2. Add up your score. 0 to 3 means you're in deep nihilism. The traps have you. Start with action step 1. 4 to 6 means you're on the fence. You know saving matters, but you haven't fully committed. Start with action step 2. 7 to 10 means you're already building. You're one of the quiet ones. Jump to action step 3. Whatever your number, here's how to move it. Action step 1, the $20 experiment. This directly fixes trap 1 and trap 4, the affordability lie and the small number blind spot. Open a separate savings account today. Automate a weekly transfer of $20. That's it. Don't touch it for 90 days. After 90 days, you'll have $260. That's not life-changing money, but here's what is life-changing. You'll have proven to yourself that you can save consistently. That proof destroys the nihilism faster than any spreadsheet ever could. The identity shifts from "I can't save" to "I already am saving." And that shift is worth more than the $260. Action step 2, the doom spending audit. This fixes trap 2 and trap 3, the doom spending loop and the comparison scroll. Pull up your bank statement from last month. Highlight every purchase you made within 30 minutes of scrolling social media. Every delivery order after a stressful day. Every impulse buy triggered by seeing someone else's highlight reel. Add it up. Don't judge it, just see it. Most doom spenders lose $300 to $500 a month to this pattern without realizing it. Knowing the number takes away its power. Then add one rule, a 24-hour wait on any purchase over $50. That's not a spending ban, it's a speed bump. Most impulse purchases lose their appeal after 24 hours. The ones that survive the wait are the ones you actually wanted. Action step 3, the 90-day identity reset. This costs $0, and it fixes trap 5 and trap 6, the identity lock and the system blame shield. For 90 days, change one sentence in your head. Replace "saving is pointless" with "I'm running an experiment." You're not committing to a lifetime of sacrifice. You're not admitting the system works. You're testing a hypothesis for 90 days. That framing removes the identity threat completely. It lets you try without feeling like you're betraying your worldview. And here's the data point I saved for this moment. $200 a month, starting at 25, at an average 7% return. That becomes $525,000 by 65. Gen Z's average debt is $94,000. The number that feels crushing? $525,000 is more than 5 times larger. And it comes from the exact amount most people dismiss as too small to matter. The system that makes you feel hopeless? It's the same system where small, consistent action produces the biggest results. The math is on your side, not theirs. Financial nihilism feels rational. That's what makes it expensive. The traps are real, the frustration is valid, and the math still works. All 3 of those things are true at the same time. I made the Financial Reality Scorecard downloadable. The link is in the description. Fill it out, get your score, and it tells you exactly which action step to start with. Not because it'll buy you a house tomorrow, because it'll prove something you've stopped believing, that your money can grow. Which of these traps hit hardest for you? Drop it in the comments. That's the move. Money made simple. If this was useful, you'll want to see why you should never keep over a certain amount in a savings account. Because that money you're finally saving, it might be quietly losing $1,200 a year, and most people have no idea. I'll link it right here.